6 Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 1 episodes you can completely skip. Star Trek Deep Space Nine DS9 is widely considered one of the most complex, character-driven, and morally layered shows in the Star Trek franchise. But like many shows finding their footing in the first season, DS9 didn't exactly begin at warp speed. While the pilot episode Emissary set up the series' unique setting and philosophical themes, Season 1 had its fair share of missteps, filler episodes, and forgettable plots. To be fair, skipping episodes in a serialized universe like DS9 can be risky. Every moment helps develop characters like Sisko, Kira, and Odo. But if you're doing a rewatch or just want to get to the good stuff faster, here are 6 DS9 Season 1 episodes you can completely skip without missing anything crucial to the overarching story or character arcs. 1. Move Along Home Episode 10. Premise: an alien delegation from the Gamma Quadrant invites the DS9 crew to play what turns out to be a real-life virtual game, complete with riddles, death-defying stunts, and a lot of chanting, Alamarain, count to 4. Why you can skip it. This is perhaps the most infamous clunker of Deep Space Nine's entire run. Intended to be an imaginative look at alien customs and diplomacy gone wrong, Move Along Home instead devolves into a bizarre, confusing series of puzzles and forced whimsy that feel more like Star Trek meets Alice in Wonderland, but with none of the charm. The characters Sisko, Dax, Bashir, and Kira are trapped in a dreamlike game that makes them dance, hopscotch, and solve nonsense riddles. The stakes never feel real, the aliens are dull, and the resolution that it was all a simulation feels like a narrative cheat. Verdict: skip it unless you enjoy unintentional comedy. Even the actors have publicly cringed over this one. 2. The Storyteller Episode 14. Premise: O'Brien and Bashir visit a Bairon village under threat from a mythical entity called the Dal'Rok, which can only be defeated by a storyteller's ritualistic chants. Meanwhile, Jake and Nog cause mild diplomatic chaos back on the station. Why you can skip it. This episode tries to explore Bairon culture, but ends up feeling like a medieval pageant with a weak sci-fi coat of paint. The Dal'Rok turns out to be a poorly rendered cloud monster controlled through telepathic manipulation. The episode's stakes feel inconsequential, and the central plot lacks both tension and thematic weight. What could have been a rich exploration of faith and tradition ends up as a half-baked morality play that does little to advance any major characters. Verdict: unless you're a completist or a die-hard O'Brien/Bashir fan, you won't miss anything by skipping this one. 3. If Wishes Were Horses Episode 16. Premise: the station is thrown into chaos when people's fantasies and fictional characters suddenly come to life. Dax's literary hero appears. Bashir's dream woman materializes. Odo is tormented by Rumpelstiltskin. Yes, really. Why you can skip it. The episode aims to explore the boundaries between reality and imagination, but instead feels like a bad holodeck episode without the holodeck. The central idea, an alien species testing humanity by manifesting thoughts into reality, had potential, but it's executed with a mix of awkwardness and eye-rolling absurdity. Most of the character fantasies don't actually reveal much about the characters themselves, which makes the episode feel like fluff rather than an insightful detour. Verdict: skip it unless you're morbidly curious to see what Star Trek looks like when Rumpelstiltskin is treated as a villain of the week. 4. Q-less Episode 6. Premise: Vash, an archaeologist and former companion of Jean-Luc Picard, arrives on DS9 from the Gamma Quadrant. Along with a mischievous Q who brings chaos, condescension, and combat sports to the station. Why you can skip it. This episode tries to capitalize on Q's popularity from the next generation, but it backfires by misplacing him in the DS9 tone. DS9's world is darker, more grounded, and less suited to Q's cosmic antics and fourth wall-breaking dialogue. Q and Sisko don't mesh at all. Their boxing match is unintentionally hilarious, and unlike Picard, Sisko punches first and asks questions later. The episode doesn't deepen our understanding of Q, Vash, or the Gamma Quadrant. It just feels like a forced crossover to rope in TNG fans. Verdict: not essential. Watch it only if you're a Q completionist or want to see Sisko punch a godlike being in the face. 5. The Forsaken Episode 17. Premise: Waxana Troy yes, that one visits DS9 and becomes infatuated with Odo. Meanwhile, a mysterious alien probe causes a station-wide computer malfunction, and Bashir is stuck babysitting some R-rate diplomats. Why you can skip it. The Waxana/Odo pairing could have been a thoughtful exploration of loneliness and identity, and to be fair, there are glimmers of poignancy in their interactions. But the majority of the episode is bogged down in awkward comedy and filler subplots that go nowhere. It's a bottle episode without the tension or creativity of DS9's better confined stories. Waxana's eccentric behavior feels out of place in the station's more serious tone, and the computer crisis is resolved far too conveniently. Verdict: skip it unless you're intrigued by the idea of Odo trapped in an elevator with a betazoid socialite. Even then, it's not worth the 45 minutes. 6. Babel, Episode 5. Premise: a mysterious virus infects the station, causing aphasia, a neurological condition that scrambles the ability to speak. As the virus spreads, the crew loses communication skills while a cure is desperately sought. Why you can skip it. While the premise seems interesting, a crisis centered on communication breakdowns, the execution feels more like a generic pandemic episode. The script doesn't use the aphasia concept to explore any deeper themes or relationships, and the characters mostly stumble around incoherently until a last-minute solution is found. It's an early attempt at a bottle episode but lacks the character depth and narrative urgency that DS9 would later master in similar situations. It feels like it belongs on a checklist of every Trek show needs a virus episode. Verdict: watch only if you're curious about DS9's early attempts at medical crises. Otherwise, this is a safe one to skip. Final thoughts. DS9's first season is a mix of promise and missteps, a show still in the process of defining itself. These 6 episodes are skippable not because they're the worst things ever aired on television, but because they either fail to contribute to the show's overarching themes, stumble in character development, or simply don't hold up with the benefit of hindsight. The good news? Once you're past these early stumbles, Deep Space Nine blossoms into one of the most emotionally rich and narratively ambitious series in the Star Trek canon. So feel free to skip these misfires and head straight for the gems like Duet, Progress, and In the Hands of the Prophets. Because trust me, the best of DS9 is well worth the journey, even if you need to skip a few space hopscotch games to get there. Word count: ~1405 words. Let me know if you want this in listicle format, turned into a review-style blog post, or tailored for social media. Hold up with the benefit of hindsight. The good news? Once you're past these early stumbles, Deep Space Nine blossoms into one of the most emotionally rich and narratively ambitious series in the Star Trek canon. So feel free to skip these misfires and head straight for the gems like Duet, Progress, and In the Hands of the Prophets. Because trust me, the best of DS9 is well worth the journey, even if you need to skip a few space hopscotch